I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and I know that a lot of people count this film as a kaiju film rather than a straight tokusatsu film, but I'm going to review it anyway. My main justification is that the kaiju is not in the Undersea Warship, the source novel by Shunro Oshikawa that the film is based on. That film in question is the curiously titled Atragon.
As is becoming the pattern with these movies, mysterious events are happening in Japan. People are disappearing, abducted by entities whom eyewitnesses say emit steam from their bodies. Other eyewitnesses say these kidnappers come and go from the sea. By sheer luck, 2 fashion photographers thwart one of these kidnappings and wind up blowing the lid off the whole case.
It turns out these kidnappings are the first step in an invasion, this time from underwater as opposed to outer space.
The enemy is the Empire of Mu, which is sort of like Atlantis if it were in the Pacific. They ruled the world in ancient times before they were forced beneath the sea, but now they're ready to take over once again. They have advanced technology, strange powers, and their living god Manda, so humanity is in deep trouble.
Mankind's only hope comes from a source which has remained hidden up to now.
Captain Hachiro Jinguchi and his crew, who disappeared at the end of World War II, have been secluded on an uncharted island building the Gotengo, a wonder vessel that has full reign of the land, sea, and air. Unfortunately, the captain is stuck in his old ways and only intends to use the Gotengo for the glory of Imperial Japan. The fate of the world now hinges on one man's ability to let go of the past.
Again, I know that a lot of people count Atragon as a kaiju movie because Manda shows up at the end. But for most of the runtime, Manda's not present, and Atragon is a sci-fi movie like the others we've seen in this series. Since Manda is present, though, may as well get that part out of the way first.
Manda is one of those kaiju who has a good design but doesn't have the best implementation. Being a serpentine dragon, Manda is mostly operated as a marionette, and while it looks better than Reptilicus, it still has a tendency to move unnaturally. Manda's role is ultimately a small one, which speaks to the fact that the monster was an addition by Toho and not part of the original book, so the off-putting effects are ultimately a minor distraction. Even so, the way Manda is incorporated into Mu culture does lend an extra layer to the evil empire, so it's not as if the monster is completely gratuitous.
The rest of the special effects are based on vehicles and sets, and they look really impressive.
The undersea kingdom of Mu is realized with expansive sets both full-scale and miniature, which blend seamlessly together. The aesthetic here is heavily inspired by ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia mixed with ray gun Gothic, and it all comes together to make Mu look and feel like a real place.
The true centerpiece of this film, however, is the Gotengo, which may be one of the most iconic Japanese ships in all of pop culture, aside from the battleship Yamato.
The design is sleek, instantly recognizable, and looks like it could potentially exist as a real device even with its fantastic abilities. It's almost reminiscent of the Nautilus, but not in such a way that it feels like a cheap copy. The actual model functions almost perfectly. I can't recall any shots where it doesn't look good. Even on those rare occasions where the wires are visible, the ship itself still looks impressive. When placed opposite the less than impressive Manda, the Gotengo still shines as one of the best sci-fi vehicles in tokusatsu history.
It's little wonder that Toho would bring it back in future films and even a 2-episode anime. What really makes Atragon stand out, though, is how its theme is incorporated into the story. When you get right down to it, Atragon is a film that has a large cast of characters, but only one of them has an arc. And what an arc it is.
Captain Jinguchi is a character right out of Toho's old war movies, a man who seems to have a singular devotion to nationalism and patriotism. Even though the war is over and the empire is gone, he remains loyal to the old ways and refuses to serve any cause that doesn't restore Japan's glory. That makes him somewhat tragic in a way. Captain Jinguchi fancies himself a noble samurai, a warrior who faithfully serves a master, but in truth he has become a Ronin, a warrior with no master and thus no home and no cause.
You may note, however, that the good captain is never outright condemned by the rest of the cast.
He is a soldier, and a soldier is exactly what the world needs to defeat Mu, but in order for him to do it, he needs to accept that the world has changed. His old master is gone, but he can serve a new master and bring glory to Japan in a different way than he initially intended.
What makes his growth and transformation believable is the revealing of his more emotional side.
Jinguchi's daughter Makoto is a major player in these events, but since he was off on an island all of these years, he hasn't seen her since she was 3. Now she's an adult who grew up in a different Japan than he ever knew. It is ultimately his love for her, which never faded even with his absence, that convinces him to become the hero Japan and the world needs.
It's like I always say, nothing expresses a father's love for his daughter more than willingness to wipe out an entire civilization of genocidal conquerors in a submarine with a giant drill for a nose.
It's what I would do if I had a daughter. In that sense, you could say that Atragon is a simultaneous deconstruction and reconstruction of the old war films that used to be made in Japan.
On the one hand, it acknowledges that the old ways went extinct for a reason. Despite the initial frustration and humiliation as expressed in the original Godzilla, Japan has actually turned out alright in its post-war incarnation, and the notion of clinging to the so-called glory of the empire is now considered foolish.
On the other hand, there's nothing wrong with being a patriot and loving your country. You just need to temper that feeling a little and steer it away from the realm of fanaticism.
The Mu still cling to the old ways, and their actions are to the detriment of the whole world and, ultimately, themselves. Jinguchi, meanwhile, learns to move forward and use his old-fashioned methods in a new way, saving the world as a result.
It's a great parallel that helps elevate Atragon above the rest. And boy, is the lesson about not being stuck in the past something a lot of people could stand to learn these days.
Again, I might be cheating by including this in my journey through Toho's non-kaiju sci-fi flicks, but I don't really care. Atragon is a film worth seeing, and by extension, worth discussing.
Some of you may have already seen it, but if you haven't seen it in a while, I recommend watching it again. You may just look at it in a way you didn't before. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Next time, magic mushrooms.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.